Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Prashant Kumar Sinha, and with me is Reshma Tiwari, bringing glimpses of major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. The headlines: Ibrahim Raisi succeeds Hassan Rouhani as Iran's new president after landslide electoral victory. Vietnam introduces new guidelines to codify ethics for social media companies and the public. India's Air Chief Marshal asserts Indian Air Force undergoing a monumental transformation with rapid infusion of technologies. Indian Embassy in Beijing to organize International Day of Yoga celebrations on Sunday. Indian sprint legend Milkha Singh cremated with full state honours in Chandigarh. And in Eurocup football, Hungary hold France to a 1-1 draw. As many states are relaxing lockdown norms, we advise our listeners not to lower their guard as the COVID-19 pandemic remains a threat to our health. Please stay at home unless it is essential to go out and continue to follow the 4 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene, and get vaccinated. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact National Helpline numbers 011 2397 8046 and 1075. Now the news in detail. Ibrahim Raisi secured a landslide victory in the presidential elections in Iran on Saturday. Turnout in Friday's elections was a record low of around 48%. According to the Interior Ministry official Jamal Orfi, around 90% of the 28.6 million ballots have been counted, and Raisi's tally was 17.8 million. Outgoing Iranian President Hassan Rouhani visited Raisi at his office to congratulate him, and Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif said he would lead Iran well. Rouhani said he will stand by and fully cooperate with the president-elect for the next 45 days when the new government takes charge. Appointed by Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei to the high-profile job of Judiciary Chief in 2019, Raisi was placed under U.S. sanctions a few months later over human rights violations. Amnesty International's Secretary General Agnes Callamard said that the organization will continue to call for Ibrahim Raisi to be investigated for his involvement in past and ongoing crimes under international law. Vietnam has introduced new guidelines that codify ethics for social media companies and the public. According to reports, the guidelines encourage users to create accounts with their real identities, share information from official sources, and avoid posting content which violates Vietnamese law or contains bad language. The new code also requires social media organizations to deal with users in accordance with Vietnamese law if they are requested by authorities to remove content from their platforms.
Indian Air Force IAF Chief RKS Bhadauria on Saturday said the Rafale aircraft induction is proceeding as per the schedule. The IAF chief was addressing a media conference after the passing out parade at the Air Force Academy at Dundigal near Hyderabad. He said that the IAF is undergoing a monumental transformation with rapid infusion of technologies.
इंटीग्रेटेड थिएटर कमांड के डिस्कशन चल रहे हैं, उसके डेलिब्रेशंस शुरू हो गए हैं हायर लेवल पे एंड वो डेलिब्रेशन आर नाउ प्रोग्रेसिंग इन टर्म्स ऑफ कैपेबिलिटी एनहांसमेंट। रफेल के कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के बाद पैरेलल में हमने एलसीए का किया है मार्क 1 है, तो 3.5 साल में वो इंडक्शन शुरू होगा। उसमें सबसे बड़ा है एमका का, तो 5th जनरेशन एयरक्राफ्ट जो इंडिजिनसली प्रोड्यूस होगा वो डिसीजन इन प्रिंसिपल ले लिया गया है, तो वो हमारी इंडस्ट्री के साथ होगा, डीआरडीओ करेगा। अलॉन्ग विद दैट देयर आर मेनी बड़े बड़े प्रोजेक्ट हैं जो डीआरडीओ अपनी इंडस्ट्री के साथ है, जैसे एयरबस C20 बेस्ड हमारा AEW एयरक्राफ्ट जो एम्ब्रेयर का फॉलोअप होगा, एक वो बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट है। इन टर्म्स ऑफ रेडार, सेंसर, वेपन, स्टैंड ऑफ वेपन, बहुत प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं।
India on Wednesday abstained from voting on a UN General Assembly resolution on Myanmar. The UNGA adopted a resolution on Myanmar that called upon the Myanmar armed forces to respect the people's will as freely expressed by results of the general elections on 8th of November last year and to end the state of emergency. Explaining India's abstention, India's permanent representative to the UN, Mr. Tirumurti, said that India's views have not been reflected in the draft resolution.
As Myanmar's immediate neighbor and close friend of its people, we are cognizant of the serious impact of political instability and the potential of its spillover beyond Myanmar's border. India has been calling for greater engagement with the objective of peacefully resolving all issues. We already have such an ongoing initiative under the aegis of ASEAN. It is important that we extend support to the ASEAN efforts. During the discussions on this resolution, we had engaged in a spirit of finding a constructive and pragmatic way forward, and accordingly shared our suggestions to those who piloted this resolution. However, we find that our views have not been reflected in the draft being considered for adoption today. We would like to reiterate that a consultative and constructive approach involving the neighboring countries and the region remains important as the international community strives for the peaceful resolution of the issue. The fact that there is lack of support from all neighboring countries and from several countries in the region itself should hopefully serve as an eye-opener to those who chose to pursue a hasty course of action. We therefore do not believe that the tabling of the resolution for adoption at this juncture was conducive to aiding our joint efforts towards strengthening the democratic process in Myanmar. We were therefore constrained to abstain.
The resolution was adopted with 119 countries voting in favour, Belarus voting against, and India along with 35 other countries abstaining, including China and Russia. The resolution also asked the military junta to respect all human rights of people of Myanmar and to allow the sustained democratic transition of Myanmar, which includes the opening of the democratically elected parliament, and by working towards bringing all national institutions, including the armed forces, under a fully inclusive civilian government that is representative of the people's will.
India's Health Ministry has said a total of 97,743 patients recovered during the past 24 hours. With this, the national recovery rate now stands at 96.16%, and daily recoveries continue to outnumber daily new cases for the 37th consecutive day. A total of 1,647 deaths were reported in the past 24 hours, taking the death toll to over 3,85,000. On the vaccination front, India has administered over 27 crore 23 lakh COVID-19 vaccine doses to the eligible beneficiaries so far. Health and Family Welfare Ministry said over 33 lakh vaccine doses were administered to beneficiaries in the past 24 hours. This is All India Radio giving you the world news.
The centre is disseminating awareness of national helpline numbers for the benefit of citizens during the COVID-19 pandemic. The helpline number of the Health and Family Welfare Ministry is 1075. The child helpline number is 1098. For senior citizens of Delhi, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand, the helpline number is 14567. The helpline number of National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, NIMHANS, for psychological support is 08046110007. Ayush COVID-19 Counselling helpline number is 14443, and MyGov WhatsApp help desk number is 9013151515.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on COVID-19 variants and prevention in an exclusive interview with Dr. Priya Abraham, Director of National Institute of Virology, with AIR correspondent Deeksha Saxena.
To begin with, my first question to you is, since the beginning of the pandemic, the NIV has put up a relentless fight against the virus. According to you, how far have we come in the fight and how much success have we achieved in it? And how far do we have to go now?
I'll take your question and reply it in a two-stage manner. One with regard to ICMR NIV. As you know, we were the first to detect the initial cases in India. We set up diagnostics. We were very lucky to be able to isolate the virus, which gave us an opportunity to set up indigenous antibody detection tests, including the neutralization antibody test, which is really important to analyze both preclinical trials as well as during clinical trials in the making of a vaccine. So, among many other things, I think perhaps virus isolation was one of our biggest achievements. And we have done a lot of testing, we have distributed a lot of RT-PCRs to the rest of the country, and also we have empowered over 106 laboratories. These are government laboratories which are a network of virus reference diagnostic laboratories under the Department of Health Research, and in turn they have also been helping other government labs. So we have about 1,200 labs that are using the RT-PCR technology that we have started. As I had already mentioned about the vaccine, yes, we were very instrumental in helping a pharma make India's first indigenous vaccine for SARS-CoV-2. Having said that, on a national scale, if we see, India has been quick to develop diagnostics. Not only that, we have worked hard towards innovation and self-reliance. So we have a number of made in India diagnostic platforms in the nation. We have also been quick to become self-sufficient with personal protective equipment, PPE. And then in India itself, there are 2 vaccines being made. Of course, in a country like ours, with our population, vaccination targets are not as desirable as they should be. But by the end of the year, we are going to see some very good coverage of vaccination all over the country.
Bharat Biotech, ICMR and NIV jointly developed the indigenous vaccine, the Covaxin in India. So just for the benefit of our listeners, can you just explain how does the vaccine work?
So this vaccine formulation is inactivated virus. This virus has actually been inactivated by a chemical known as beta-propionolactone, and it's also mixed with an adjuvant which is also called as alhydroxy gel. How it works is once this vaccine is injected in the upper arm, the killed or inactivated virus is taken up by a group of immune cells known as antigen-presenting cells. These antigen-presenting cells engulf the virus particles in the vaccine formulation and then fragment the virus into smaller fragments of protein. And these are presented on the surface of the antigen-presenting cell, which are recognized by another group of very important immune cells known as the T helper cell or the T helper lymphocyte. Once they get activated, they recognizing these foreign protein fragments sticking out on the surface of the antigen-presenting cell. They send out signals to other immune cells that also get activated. And one group of activated immune cells are the B lymphocytes. The B lymphocytes are those that are responsible in producing the antibody response, while other immune cells are involved with the cell-mediated immune response.
Ma'am, my next question to you is, because this is a very new virus and all of us scientists like you are also facing this calamity for the first time. So the virus is mutating. And that is what we saw in India in the second wave, the Delta variant. And now we are hearing from past 2-3 days, like Dr. Paul said, that the Delta plus variant has been first reported in March and now it has been brought to public notice on 13 June. So like there are several mutations, Beta, Delta, and many more might be there. So is the vaccine efficient against those variants too?
So these variants develop mutations on their spike gene as well as other regions of its genome. What is important is when these mutations happen in the spike gene, the amount of neutralization that the antibody that is there in individuals who are vaccinated, this antibody cannot effectively neutralize these variants as well as the original strain. But the very process of vaccination produces sufficient amounts of antibody that even if the neutralization is reduced 2-fold, 3-fold or 5 or 6-fold, the antibodies can still neutralize the virus. Thus far, whatever variants we have got, the antibodies are still able to neutralize the virus, though somewhat limitedly with some of these variants. We must also remember that when we deliver vaccine, the vaccine, as I had mentioned earlier, stimulates the production of antibodies but also stimulates the cell-mediated immunity. So it is not just the binding of antibody that contributes to protection. But having said all of this, both in India and the world over, what scientists are engaged in now is to continuously do what is known as genomic surveillance, because you want to look out for any new variant which is a nasty variant that is not getting neutralized at all. Thus far, we have not encountered one like that, but the world over, scientists are engaging in genomic surveillance because we do expect more variants to come along.
Ma'am, my next question is, we have heard of several symptoms after the COVID vaccination. Can you clear the air that people are under the impression that once they get vaccinated, they won't be infected by the COVID?
Symptoms after vaccination are related to actually delivery of the vaccine, and those are known as AEFI, or basically these are the allergic reaction to the vaccine. These symptoms can vary from low-grade fever, muscle ache, people having a generalized weakness, tiredness. This is actually related to the immune response that is triggered after you have encountered the virus that is there in the vaccine formulation. That is not a COVID illness per se. That is the body's immune response to the vaccine formulation that is injected into your arm. That is the illness people feel after vaccination. Now I want to clearly talk about this versus actually having COVID after vaccination. There are people 7 days after taking the vaccine, they go down with COVID. That's not because of the vaccine. It's because they would have been exposed to the virus just before or just after taking the vaccine. And you must remember that when we take a vaccine, it takes a couple of weeks for that immune response to mature.
My next question is, now people are speculating, and in fact several doctors have said that in the third wave children will get affected, most likely because children have not been vaccinated yet. So do you feel that something like this might happen, and if it is a possibility, what is our preparation to fight that?
Subsequent to this statement being made in media, a number of the nation's top pediatricians have met, and they are of the belief that children in particular are not going to be at risk, especially younger children below 10 years of age. It's not that children were not exposed in the first and second wave. They were very much exposed. But children generally, especially younger children, have a mild or asymptomatic illness, and this is believed to be because they have a lower number of ACE2 receptors expressed in their respiratory tract, and their immune response handles the virus differently as compared to young adults and older adults. But having said all of this, though I am saying that pediatric infections may not be a problem, we, after 1.5 years of this pandemic, in all humility realize we do not know everything about this virus. So it may be prudent to nevertheless gear up as a nation for probable spurt in infections in pediatric age group, and therefore we must build the infrastructure for having pediatric cases probably getting admitted in terms of oxygen availability, the appropriate equipment, trained manpower, even drugs and injectables that are appropriate for them. It may be a good idea to gear up, though I personally think pediatric infections should not be an extraordinarily huge problem, except in those children that already have comorbidities.
With this, we bring our discussion to an end. Thank you so much, Dr. Ibrahim, for your time. Thank you.
Now let's take a look at the coronavirus updates from around the world. The COVID-19 situation in Bangladesh continues to be grim, with 67 deaths being reported in a single day on Saturday. This is the highest number of deaths in a single day since May the 2nd, when 69 deaths were reported in the country. A Belgian court on Friday ordered AstraZeneca to deliver 50 million additional COVID-19 vaccine doses to the European Union according to a strict timetable or face a fine. The European Commission had taken AstraZeneca to court to force it to deliver 90 million more doses of its coronavirus vaccine before July. The WHO on Friday said that the coronavirus spreads more rapidly than the Ebola virus. However, the approach to tackling the pandemic remains the same. WHO Chief Scientist Dr. Soumya Swaminathan said that the Delta variant is on its way to become the dominant global variant of the virus.
The whole situation is so dynamic because of the variants that are now circulating, and as you said, the Delta variant is well on its way to becoming the dominant variant globally because of its significantly increased transmissibility.
Meanwhile, in the U.S. reached a major milestone of administering 300 million doses in its vaccination program. U.S. President Joe Biden welcomed the delivery of 300 million shots in the country on Friday. However, he also expressed concern over the extremely virulent Delta variant. India's ambassador to Japan, Sanjay Kumar Verma, said that more than 100 yoga events are being held across Japan by Vivekananda Cultural Center of Indian Embassy in Tokyo. This will include a yoga event at one of the most iconic landmarks of Tokyo, Tokyo Skytree, on the 21st of June on the occasion of the International Yoga Day.
Vivekananda Cultural Center of this embassy is organizing digital yoga, online yoga workshop and common yoga protocol demonstrations. Yog Deep with Gayatri Ramesh, Yoga with Ira Trivedi and Arogya Yoga with Nivedita Joshi, all produced by Doordarshan, are being shown using embassy's social media handles. With the participation of Japanese members of parliament, yoga event is being organized at Tokyo Skytree, probably the most iconic structure in Tokyo, on 21st of June. Other notable events being organized on 20th and 21st of June include Temple Yoga in Kagoshima, Temple Yoga in Ishikawa, International Day of Yoga in Tokachi, International Day of Yoga by Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Japan, Yoga Matsuri Challenge, VYS Yoga Matsuri, Ayu Yoga, Yoga Tourism by Indian Tour Operators Committee, etc.
The Indian Embassy in Beijing will organize the International Day of Yoga celebrations on Sunday. Around 500 people are expected to participate in the event. Ahead of the celebrations worldwide, Prasar Bharati correspondent in Beijing spoke to a few Chinese yoga gurus and also students on yoga's popularity in China and the International Day of Yoga. Lin Zhaihai, who runs a yoga institute in Beijing, learned yoga from Parmarth Niketan Ashram in Rishikesh, India in 2001. He said that yoga is very good for our body, mind and spirit. Mr. Lin, who has been organizing many international yoga conferences in China, said International Day of Yoga is very important for the entire world.
Ram Lin. I'm the yoga master in China. Many years ago, I think about 20 years, I built the first yoga center in China. I learned the yoga skills from India. Also, I invited the Indian teacher come to Beijing and to have the lessons and to the Chinese students. I think about 2005, so in China, there are more and more people learn yoga. So that is why I promote yoga. 2007, I organized the International Yoga Conference in Beijing.
A Chinese yoga student, Jennifer, from an Indian yoga institute in V-Yoga in Beijing, said that yoga has improved her life quality.
Hello, namaste. I'm Jennifer. I'm from Beijing in China. I practice yoga in V-Yoga. I like to practice yoga every day, maybe 2 or 3 hours. It makes me happy and peaceful and improve my life quality. If you practice yoga every day, you can keep you healthy and good mood.
Mohan Bhandari is the first Indian yoga guru who came to China from Rishikesh in 2003 and established his yoga institute, Yogi Yoga, which is the largest in China at present. In an exclusive interview with Prasar Bharati correspondent in Beijing, Mr. Bhandari spoke about yoga's popularity in China and also the International Day of Yoga.
जो योग दिवस है एक बहुत बड़ा सेलिब्रेशन है योग का और इसकी वजह से जो रिस्पेक्ट है लोगों में भारत के प्रति वो बहुत बढ़ती है मतलब उनको लगता है कि जो भारत है वो देना चाहता है लोगों को कि they should have a good health, they should have a quiet mind and if we have these two things we will be happy people and that is what is the nature human has to be happy from birth to the death whatever we are doing there is only one purpose to get happiness. I think our Prime Minister has done a great job to bring the happiness to the each and everyone.
In Sports Roundup, All India Radio brings you the latest news updates from the world of sports through the day. In football at the Euro 2020, Hungary held France to a 1-1 draw in Group F encounter at Budapest. Attila Fiola gave Hungary the lead, however, France equalized through Antoine Griezmann. Germany were 2 goals up at half-time in the exciting group of death encounter against Portugal. Portugal took an early lead through captain Ronaldo. Kai Havertz was credited with a deflected goal as he equalized for Germany. Germany then mounted a strong attack to gain the lead at half-time when reports last came in. Denmark's midfielder Christian Eriksen has been discharged from hospital following a successful operation 6 days after suffering a cardiac arrest at the Euro 2020. The Danish Football Union DBU made the announcement on Friday. With less than 35 days remaining for the start of the Tokyo Olympics, All India Radio brings you a special series on India's medal prospects at the sporting extravaganza. Today we talk about India's hope in shooting, Apurvi Chandela. Jaipur-born Apurvi Chandela wanted to become a sports journalist, but Abhinav Bindra's gold medal at the Beijing 2008 Olympic Games inspired her to become a shooter, and Apurvi started preparing herself to enter the world of sports.
My inspiration to take up the sport has been Abhinav Bindra. I liked rifle more, so I took to rifle shooting.
The mortal remains of Indian sprint legend Flying Sikh Milkha Singh were cremated with full state honours in Chandigarh this evening. The legendary athlete succumbed to post-COVID-19 complications last night at PGI MER Hospital in Chandigarh after a month-long battle with the virus. He was 91 years old. Our correspondent reports the Punjab government observed one-day state mourning as a mark of respect to the departed soul. The Padma Shri awardee is survived by his golfer son Jeev Milkha Singh and 3 daughters. His wife Nirmal Kaur lost her life recently to the coronavirus infection.
Now let us take a look at major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. Washington Post reports that the entire Portland Police Crowd Control Unit quit over fellow officer's assault charge. The Guardian writes that former Metropolitan Police Chief interviewed Prince Charles over alleged plot to kill Diana. Wall Street Journal reports that North Korea's Kim Jong-un signals willingness to resume nuclear talks. New York Times writes that Iranian hardliner may be best path to restoring nuclear deal, and Khaleej Times writes that P.T. Usha and Ashwini Nachappa remember Milkha Singh's indomitable spirit. A quick look at the headlines once again. Ibrahim Raisi succeeds Hassan Rouhani as Iran's new president after landslide electoral victory. Vietnam introduces new guidelines to codify ethics for social media companies and the public. India's Air Chief Marshal asserts Indian Air Force undergoing a monumental transformation with rapid infusion of technologies. Indian Embassy in Beijing to organize International Day of Yoga celebrations on Sunday. Indian sprint legend Milkha Singh cremated with full state honours in Chandigarh. And in Euro Cup football, Hungary holds France to a 1-1 draw. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let's listen to his favourite bhajan Vaishnav Jan by artists from Laos. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of the World News.